are recording us from now. Okay, great. So as I said, what we're going to do here tonight is we are going to kick into touch these myths about what men want and what men don't want, and how we can become, you know, pickable or kissable, as I always say it, and also to answer some of your specific questions about why you're still single, or what, you know, what's all this got to do with, you know, isn't surely, as some people say, surely, you know, meeting the right man or having the right man meet me is an act of fate and I should just wait. But I know that you, like me, when I remember when I was, you know, had come out of some of my old relationships which were pretty dysfunctional, if I'm absolutely honest, and what I did was I went, okay, I'm not just going to leave this to chance. I'm not going to just, as somebody said, you know, am I waiting in vain? I'm going to actually do something. So I really want to applaud you, first of all, for being with me tonight, because most people are too busy doing other things. They don't make the time and the space to actually get the education. I know that word education sounds a bit heavy. It sounds like we're going back to school. But no, they get the realizations and the understanding of where they are, where you are, so that you know where you need to be, so that actually your knight in shining armor comes along and whisks you off your feet. So let's get started. So one of the things that I want to talk about first is I want to talk about this myth that men want us only for our bodies or our cooking or our money if we're, you know, wealthy or whatever it is. And I've had a lot of letters recently from you know, kind of really covering all of those things. I've had letters from women who are very wealthy, who are saying, you know, I'm really concerned, I'm really worried that actually, you know, men might come towards me because they want, you know, me to take care of them. Because, of course, that's the exact opposite of what we really want as girls. We want men to take care of us. Now, that's not to say we're going to lie about all day being waited on hand and foot. Well, that would be quite fun anyway. It would be quite nice. What we're going to do, we're going to participate in the relationship. We want to be part of it. That may mean that we work. It might mean that we have part of our business with or without our partner. It doesn't make any difference. But it means that emotionally, definitely, the strong man takes care of us. He can deal with our, you know, monthly ups and downs or our emotional times. If, you know, if like me, you're towards the end of your emotional ups and downs period, hope so. But a man that can deal with our kind of emotional ups and downs, but also a man that can take care of us. And here's the very first thing that I want to kind of talk about, which is that women sometimes think, because it's become a bit of a disease, as Tony would say, an epidemic, that men seem to depend on women quite a lot. And I believe there's a couple of reasons why this happens. I believe that because inherently, so brace yourself, this might be a bit contentious for you, because inherently as women we have vulnerability. So if you had to sum up feminine energy, female kind of doing, how are we, you know, what's our behavior? If you have to sum it up, I would say that a healthy vulnerability is very healthy, right? So actually what it is that men actually don't want us to be strong and independent or don't need them at all. They want us to be healthily vulnerable. So what does that mean? It means that they don't, obviously we're either a woman, here's the extremes of women that I come across. We're either a woman who is very kind of independent and seemingly doesn't need a man at all, or there are women who are kind of needy. Okay, so here's where here's my first question to you. Where on that scale are you? Where on that scale? So are you down this needy end, when actual fact, if you told the truth, you'd be saying, actually, Nikki, you know, really, I'm not doing well, and I think I'd be doing better if I was in a relationship, so I really need a relationship? Or are you up the other end of the scale, where you're going, actually, I'm well sorted, I'd like to be in a relationship, but I don't need to be because I take care of myself. Now, if you are at either of those extremes, this could be one of the reasons why you're still single, or why, if you've had lots of dates and lots of people, lots of men come towards you, that the right man for you has not come along. Because one of the, again, one of the questions I get is, how come, the men that I'm attracted to are not attracted to me, and the men I'm not attracted to are attracted to me? Well, my guess is it's one of those reasons. It's whether you're which end. So what happens with women who are very fiercely independent and they've got their whole life sorted, so they don't need a man at all, not even in a healthy way. They just want one, but they don't. There's no gap for him to fill. There's nothing for him to cherish, basically. That will be one of the main reasons why you're still single, or that weaker men come towards you. If you're the other end of the scale, again, it's going to be the reason why either you don't attract men at all because what they're noticing is a neediness about you, in which case they'll move away from you, and even though you may not notice that, or they'll come towards you, but they will either be a bit kind of controlling, so they'll go, well, here's a woman I can easily control, which is not healthy male behavior, or they'll be kind of a bit like you, where you get into like a, well, we need each other. It's like what they call a codependent relationship. So where do we want to be? Well, we want to be right in a healthy place. So we want to have our lives lovely. We want to have our lives safe. We want to feel safe, but we do not want to be in a situation where we're doing so much trying to get safe, for the rest of our lives. I have women write to me and they go, look, I'm trying to make a decision about where to live or what to do or whatever. And they go, but, because I'm going to have to take care of myself financially. I actually had one woman who said to me, I've always attracted such weak men who are just not good at, taking care of themselves even. And therefore, I always imagine I'm going to have to look after myself. So I have to make certain decisions in order to do that. And of course, so what happens is that we attract unhealthy men, whichever end of the scale. So what a man wants is he wants some job to do, right? So he wants us in a healthy place where we're taking care of ourselves, but not in the extreme way. And yes, we're not needy. We're healthy and we're safe and we're happy and all those things that you will have heard me talk about. Men are looking for a woman who's happy so he can make her even more happy. Men are looking for a woman who is feeling safe anyway, so he can make her feel even more safe. Men are looking for a woman who cherishes herself, takes care of herself, as I would say, loves herself as she would her beloved, so that he can take care of her and he can love her even more than she loves herself. Now, what I've said up to now is pretty contentious stuff. It's not many people who say this. What they normally say is, it's a very black and white way of speaking about men and women. They don't see the subtlety, or they don't talk about the subtlety of being in that space that's really, really healthy, so that a really, really healthy man comes and finds us. Now, you may go, I have had lots of experiences of where men have gone, they really like having, intimacy with me at first, and then they've either gone off with somebody else, or they've been, as with one couple recently, she was very upset about the fact that her man, watches a lot of pornography and stuff like that. And I said to her, well, you're going to have to be honest with yourself and say, look, was I very sexual with him when I first met him? And she had to admit that she was. She said, yes, I was very, very sexual. She said, I used to, always wear very sexual clothes for him. I always used to, be what I thought he wanted. But of course, that isn't really what men want. It's what they think they want, or it's what unhealthy men want. Unhealthy men are looking for a woman for them to, have sex with. So they might be looking for a woman just for her body, and they want to have sex with because they want to release their frustrations and their emotions. It's not because they want to make love to you. It's because they want to have sex with you. So an unhealthy man will want that. An unhealthy man will want money. Now, so to talk about that as an example, and for those of the women that have written to me and said about, I'm wealthy in my own right, what do I do? That seems to be, I'm worried that they might want me for my money. And I said, look, here's the thing. You need to wait for a man to come along who's really, really healthy, who's taking care of his own life, and so that then he can take care of you as an us. And that doesn't mean to say you're going to like give all your money to charity or not have your business or not have your job. It just means that the best thing that I've seen, the best solution, the best fit between you and a man is a man who's got his life sorted more than you have. Now, you know, this is a very contentious subject, as you know, because of the money thing is contentious, but it's the truth. If you have a man who can't take care of himself in a great way, and then he wants to be in a relationship with you, then actually he may be a really, really nice guy who's not coming towards you because you have money or more security, but he may unconsciously be more moving towards you because, brace yourself, he wants you to kind of mother him, to take care of him because he can't take care of himself. And I'm coaching a fabulous woman at the moment who actually is through inheritance and various other things has inherited quite a lot of money, and she's saying, well, she was a bit shocked when I said to her, well, you know, I would definitely be waiting for a man who has perhaps more wealth than you, if not the same as more wealth. And she went, oh, doesn't that sound a bit callous? Doesn't that sound a bit like I'm looking for, you know, a man and it's all about his money? And I said, well, no, not at all. See, in my vision of my relationship and the man that I really want to spend the rest of my life with, I actually wrote the word wealthy. And it's not because I'm avaricious or because I'm greedy or because I want to have lots and lots of material things, because I kind of gave that up, you know, years and years ago. It's because it denotes the measure of the man. It tells the man kind of, you know, it shows what he's made of. It shows that he's been able to make his way in the world, and the modern day equivalent of hunting is, of course, money. Right? So it's not that he would have to have vast wealth, but he would need to have wealth in his life. That doesn't just mean money, of course. It's an abundant mentality, an abundant life. And that's the kind of man that you want to come and find you. So what men want, in a nutshell, in terms of money, is someone that they can take care of. And any man who doesn't want that is just not in a healthy place himself. So we wouldn't want to be attracting that. Now, if we are attracting that, we have to look at ourselves. Oh, no, that's tough. But if we are attracting that, we'll have to say to ourselves, look, am I in any way putting out a signal? Those of you who've been on the course 1 part of my Let Him Find You's program will know that the very, very first thing we do is we look back at our old relationships. And if you've done this before, it might be a good time to just remember it and just do it again. Just in case there's still any bit of that signal going out, we look at our past relationships and we kind of observe ourselves. And this came from the fact that I was actually with somebody years and years and years ago, before I became a coach, before I did any of this. And she actually watched me in an interaction, as an observer of an interaction with me and a guy that I was kind of dating. And she said to me, is that the kind of guy you normally have an interaction with? And I kind of went, yeah, I suppose it is actually. So you might want to think right now, what kind of, you know, there is a lot of similarities between the kind of men that I have relationships with. Or even if you've not had a lot of long-term relationships, or, you know, even if you've had no long-term relationships, what's the kind of man that I have that comes towards me? Okay, what's the similarity? And she said, is this similar? And I went, yeah, actually, I think about it. I think it is. And she said, okay, so would you be open to what I see? And I kind of went, oh, I'm not so sure about that. And she said, well, the thing is, if you had like a sign, you know, imagine you've got one of those kind of bobbly things, you know, those kind of headbands with the bobbles on, and it's got like a sign across it. She said, what do you think? She said, what I see is I see you with a sign that says, where are you, baby? Mommy here. Let me look after you. That really, really hurt me. Or really, well, cut me to the quick, as it were. Not hurt me, just like went, whoa, that sounds too accurate to be funny. And then she said, and what he's doing is he's got a sign coming out like this saying, Mommy, where are you? I need looking after. Now that may be nothing like the signs you're giving out, but if you could just get a sense now, if you could just in your mind's eye just observe yourself and a guy that you've had either a relationship with or an interaction with, or a closeness with, and see if you can see what signs. And I know some of you have done this before who've been on course 1 with me before, but it'd be really good to just recognize what you're sending out now. What interactions have you had recently with a man, for example, and what signals are you sending out now? Because that's where it all starts. Because we've titled this "What Men Want," is men want to see someone who is open to be taken care of, open to be cherished, all those things that all of us want, all of us girls want. He needs to see that in the way that we interact with ourselves, in the way that we live our lives, in the way that we show up. Are we open for that kind of healthy, really healthy relationship? Because, and the other thing, of course, is that the myth that men really like, a woman for her cooking and for her homemaking and all those sorts of things, which quite frankly nowadays is a bit of an old wives' tale, because a lot of us girls, work quite hard, so don't have that much time for kind of homemaking. But you see, again, it's a similar sort of situation. I've seen many, many single people that have come to Tony and I for assistance, and then they come back and said, oh, yes, I'm in a relationship, I'm with this guy, but I'm still not quite sure he's the one for me, because he's kind of moved into my house and I take care of him. And immediately the alarm bells go off for me, immediately, because I go, okay, why did he move in? And the answer is always the same. It's because it's practical, it's financially viable, it's all those reasons which sound great to the head, but of course the consequences of having that kind of relationship together is that what happens is it has an unhealthy balance, whereas really what you want, which is why I always urge girls, women, to really check in with themselves. Am I really in that place where I actually would be fine single, because I'd rather wait for the right man to come along. I'm not desperate to be in a relationship. I don't stay in old relationships, or I don't still have an interaction with my old partners because I'm desperate for that kind of connection. I'm actually really happy being single, because I know that if I live my life at a very happy level, that a really healthy, great masculine man will come along. Now when he comes along, if he starts to make you think that he's going to take practical, financially viable decisions that keep you taking care of him, this should be a warning sign. And it's also a warning sign to say to yourself, what signal am I sending out? We can't just go, that's a warning sign that he's not for me. This is what am I still doing? So good. So has anybody got any questions about all that? Let me see. So pop them in the box if you have. Yes, I'll just give you a second just to pop that in the box. So while I'm just waiting for those questions, if there's anything there, I'm just going to go on to, what other one shall I go on to right now? Okay, so the question, why am I attracting relationships where I'm emotionally drained? Let me take that part of the question first. Okay, so when we enter into a relationship, partly it's going to be based on the footprint of the relationship, as I call it. So in other words, the interaction you have together right from get-go. So those of you, actually, perhaps you could just do me a favor so I get a sense of who I've got here. Could you put your little yellow hand up if you are on or have been on dating sites, say, in the last 12 months? About 75% of you. Wow. Now, let me be really, really clear. I've never used a dating site myself. I never did when I was single. I just didn't. Whether it's different nowadays, more people do, but it definitely wasn't 11, 12 years ago before Tony before Tony came and found me. So it's not that I have actual personal experience, I just have many, many clients who have been on dating sites. So the first thing that I just want to say about it is that my father was a bookmaker, so I'm from a kind of gambling, betting background, and I think that it's great to be on a dating site, but I would not put my whole money on it. You know, I wouldn't put my whole effort into being on the dating site. Why am I so sure about that? I'm so sure about that because, yes, first of all, let me say that we have had clients, and I do know people who have met somebody fantastic on a dating site, and they are, quote unquote, living happily ever after. So it's not that it never happens, it's just a very, very small percentage. And the reason why I would not put all my money on it, why I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't gamble that that's the only place for me to imagine I'm going to have a man find me, is because the statistics are quite poor. It's about 6 women to every 1 man. There is a lot of experience, and I know that some of you have spoken to me about it, where you've had experiences. They've had experiences whereby the man has not been being truthful with you. It's said that 1 in every 5 women are actually approached on a dating site by a man for money, which is, you know, really scary. And also that a lot of people, men and women by the way, don't tell the absolute truth. I also went some years ago to a dating site meeting of people who ran dating sites, and they were very keen to explain that their biggest problem is men who are on sites who are not on there for a healthy reason. They're not on there to find a committed, loving relationship long term. They're there to either find a woman for sex, or they're there when they're already in a relationship. So they had stats on it, and they were pretty scary. So let's just put all that to one side, because I don't want you to think that I'm negative about it. I just want you to think that, I just want you to understand that because I've had a lot of clients who've been on them, that actually what we have to do is we have to say, right, how can I present myself on a dating site? How can I present myself so that I present the truth about me, number one, but also the truth about what I want? That's often not been explained. It's often that, you know, people go, well, let me hold stuff back. Let me just put like a bit of a profile up about me, but let me really hold back the truth about what I'm keen to have in a relationship. Because I don't want to put men off, so I don't tell them that I want this, that, or the other. Now, so what I would suggest to you is the number one thing is that actually you want better quality men talking to you on dating sites, and you're probably going to get less because you put very, very clearly what you want. And I had one client once who literally changed her profile and went, this is who I am, and literally I am only wanting to talk to men who are ready, feel completely ready to be in a healthy masculine man who's ready to commit to a long-term committed relationship where we have a loving, easygoing, great time. And she was very, very specific about what she wanted. So therefore the numbers were dramatically reduced, but actually she did have a fantastic man who actually had those words in his profile, which was absolutely great. So remember, I'm on the question, why am I attracted to relationships where I'm emotionally drained? And I would say that if you so it doesn't really make any difference when you're on a dating site, but it's easy for me to talk about it. So when you read a man's profile, so first of all, I get asked this question: should we as women go towards men? Should we look at their profile and decide to move towards them? And I hate to say, like, this is a rule, because it's not a rule. It's absolutely not a rule at all. But my absolute best advice to you is not to not go towards them. In other words, you put your profile up there, you put up there what you really want, and then you wait. Because if you move towards them and then they come back to you, and you have set the foundations for this relationship. You have set the foundations for the fact that you made, if you think about it, you made the first move. And my experience of helping many couples, the ones that are in disconnection, if we troll the, wind the tape right back to the beginning of their relationship, it's been out of kilter from a healthy masculine feminine kilter perspective right from the beginning. So that may seem a bit contentious, but that's what Nicki Vee really believes, is don't move towards them. So then when they move towards you, you get a chance to look at their profile. So I was with this client of mine and we were looking on her site, I think she was with eHarmony actually, looking on her site at the men who had come towards her, and they had photographs, right? And then they had a little bit about themselves. And what I found quite scary, really, but I mean, I suppose it becomes from the fact that I have a long history of being, I was in human resources for a long time in a company. I've done a lot of recruitment, and I've done a lot of, kind of profiling people for their different personalities and what that actually looks like, not even just what it sounds like, but what it looks like. And I was able to describe what I saw. And what was absolutely fascinating is that all it did was reinforce. There wasn't one man on there where I brought my, if you like, my human resources experience to it that didn't agree with what this fabulous woman's intuition told her. So, for example, there was a man on there who was quite, the words he wrote, he was very serious. He made light of what happens on dating sites. For example, he said, I'm not interested what food you like and whether you like cats or not, or, where you like to go for your holidays. I'm just interested in knowing whether, we're a good fit. And she went, I just get like a sense that that's not a really, and I said, well, what is it? And she went, well, it's like overly serious. It's like, it's like, let's get to the end, goal before we've even, done the formalities. And I said, well, look, I can tell you just from looking at his picture, just by the look on his face, by the way he's holding, his eyes, all of that. So I can tell you that this is a man who's very serious, who is unlikely to be romantic, unlikely to surprise you, cherish you, want to understand you as a woman. He's more likely to want what I call an equality. You do your thing, he does his thing. And she went, I really got that. I really got it. She said, but I didn't kind of trust my intuition. I thought I was wrong. And I thought, well, actually, that is really interesting. So all I'd say to you is massively trust your intuition and read what they put and look at the photograph and then go, look, if a word comes to mind like serious, like, not, I don't get the sense that he would be fun or romantic, and that's like at the top of your list, well, then So in answer to the lady, and also if he talks about his life and it's got like a bit of negative, maybe it's like it's got some sort of things are difficult, or it's like I don't know, some description of his life that really, how sometimes people write, men and women, I'm not picking on men here, they write things like, life's problems or life's difficulties or, life's shit and then, then you die kind of thing. That's a bit extreme. But so you should be able to read that into it. That's going to be what it's going to be like. So the first way I can answer your question, which is where I'm emotionally drained, is the first part is you need to take a look at this guy when you first meet him, or whether you're on the site or not, and go, does this person seem to be either emotionally drained himself, or am I getting the vibe that he would be, the word that the girl used when she saw this guy's picture was, it looks like it'd be hard work to be in a relationship with him. So the first part of the answer is you need to look at him and decide, what your intuition tells you. But the second thing is you are saying, this lovely lady that's asked this question, that she's emotionally drained by the relationship. So what we can't do is blame the man. So we look back in our old relationships, and I've got a question here that says, I can see what I've been doing in the past with the anti-like. Fantastic. So if there is anybody that can't see what they're doing, please put it in the question box, because then this lady who asked this question, why am I attracting emotionally, where I'm relationships where I'm emotionally drained, really needs to look back and go, well, what was on my sign? Here's the most obvious, here's the most common thing if you're emotionally drained in a relationship, is that you've put a sign going out, bring me your problems, or bring me your emotions. I mean, my truth is, before I learned all this stuff, I was in a relationship with my second husband, and Tony's my third husband, by the way, last husband, and with my second husband, what I noticed was I agree with the lady that put this. I felt emotionally drained, but of course I put all the blame on him, going, well, he's difficult, he's emotional, he got 2 children that he wasn't living with, and it was all very traumatic for him, and very emotional and very dramatic. Things were very drama queen, and I was imagining that I was the complete innocent bystander in this, who was just emotionally drained by it. But when I look back and think about it, I could see that right from the beginning, and I can see that I went into that relationship with a big sign going, bring me your emotional problems. And of course it drained me completely, and at that time I knew no better, so all I knew was to try and sort of help him, assist him, try and make everything not upset him, all those kind of on eggshells. I'm sure some of you would know about that if you've done that pattern. And then, as this lady said, she said, then I get into these relationships where I'm emotionally drained, then I have to end it. And that exactly was my pattern. I go, like, I'm in this relationship, I'm done everything I can to try and take away his pain, basically, with the mommy thing, and now I'm going to end it. And in some ways, it was very unfair. It was very unfair of me, because I was, definitely part of creating these emotionally draining, drama-filled relationships where, goodness me, my friends must have been sick and tired of hearing me say, one day it's like fantastic, the next day it's a nightmare and I'm thinking about leaving. And I think about that was me entering into a relationship where I thought that I could resolve his problems. Now, you might go, well, how do you know about, how do you know whether they've got problems or not? Here's where, when we are in selection mode, as I love to call it, when we are getting ourselves ready, we need to spot, we need to trust our intuition, like we were saying about the dating site thing. We need to trust our intuition, but we need to absolutely be in a good place ourselves. What do I mean by that? I mean, we are not desperate to be in a relationship, so we're not going to go into a relationship just because it comes along. And we are not trying to go into a relationship and try and change that man. What we want to do is we want to, like, observe him and then make a decision as to whether that fits completely with our what we really want in a relationship. And you may have watched this week's Let Him Find You video, which is called Is He the One? And I talked about having spoken to one of Let Him Find You clients, and she was saying that, she had to make a decision whether to go into this relationship, and she said, it's just that, there's not this one thing. She said, actually, the rest of it is absolutely fine. It's just he doesn't seem that interested in what I'm doing. And I, asked her the question. I said, well, look, is that a must-have for you? Is it really, really important? She said, well, I think it is. She said, I don't know about you, Nikki. I said, well, I can't really speak for you, but I can speak for myself. I think that's damn important, because if you think about it, even to take something like he's not really interested in the things that I do or what I believe in or what I want to do, that in itself epitomizes what your relationship's going to be like. So it's like making the first move. So I think the most important thing we do is we get ourselves in a space where we go, I'm not just going to rush into a relationship. I'm not just going to go into a relationship because it feels good and it feels better than being on my own. I'm going to feel good in my singleness, and there I'm going to wait, and I'm going to wait, and while I'm waiting, and this is what I really, really want to, you know, applaud you and take my hat off to you tonight, because instead of sitting, you know, as we always say, Tony and I always say, watching EastEnders or watching the news, or, you know, you are putting this time aside to get even more information, to get yourself absolutely ready for a great man to come and find you. So a bit more there about what men are looking for, but it's also a bit more there about what to make sure that you spot the men that you don't want to be in a relationship with. Now, I have quite a long question here, so let me just okay, this is very common. Thank you, Tiffany. Hi, Nikki. I seem to give off 2 vibes at the same time. Yes, this is well, women are multitaskers. We're multidimensional. On one hand, I attract self-absorbed, manipulative men who feel life has wronged them and think it's my job to make it all better for them. So let me just cope with that bit first, Tiffany. If you attract self-absorbed, manipulative men who feel life has wronged them, then that's great, because you see them and you pick that vibe up, and then that would be not the man to be in a relationship. But if they keep telling you, this is why we have to open our ears sometimes and hear what we don't want to hear. Because if they're telling you that they think it's your job to make it all better for them, or you're just getting that sense, you could be absolutely right. It could be that you're giving out a vibe that says, I will take away your pain. Now, you know, those of you may have heard me speak about this before, but it's worth talking about it. There is a book, my first ever book, fell off the shelf in the shop when I was in such a desperate state. I was going, you know, I really, there I was probably late 30s, maybe even early 40s, and I got a young son, and I was a single mom, but then I'd gone into another relationship, and it was as painful, if not more painful, than the first one, and my first marriage, and there I am, desperate. I've even gone to the phone book going, well, you know, let me ring up, like, you know, some helpline or something about, you know, relationships, because this is horrible and it feels horrible. Anyway, I went into this bookshop, and the book Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood fell off the shelf. Now, before you go, oh yes, Nikki, I've read it, the amount of women that I hear and see, bless you, who are still having the same experience, who read the book and are still having the same experience, read the book again. Because what it will tell you when you are ready to be open to it is it will tell you the subtle signs that you're giving out. So this is why, Tiffany, it's great if you can see that you are giving off 2 vibes. So let me see what she's saying now. She's saying, on the other hand, the kind of man I'm attracted to but haven't been in a relationship with is very steady, considerate, have integrity, attracted to but haven't been very steady, considerate, but have integrity. So told me I come across as a bit of a flight risk, that I seem I could leave at any time. Is it possible that I give out 2 different signals at the same time? Yes, great, good. So I like that, flight risk. Yes, it's perfect, because this is exactly what Robin Norwood says in her book. What she says is that in general, that the women who love too much pattern is where we are subtly or not so subtly, or we may be doing it unsubtly but we don't know it yet, giving out a vibe that says, I'll take care of you. Okay, so that's a bit like my thing that I got told, which is, you know, baby, where are you? Mommy's here to take care of you. And she basically says that's in a nutshell the vibe we're giving out. Now, what she says is, if you've had a series of relationships where that's been the problem, which is what Tiffany's saying right here, then you can pretty much be sure that you're giving out a vibe of something like that. Okay, in which case what we need to do is recognize that we may be doing that unconsciously, first of all, but secondly, that is seemingly a caring, loving female way of behaving, but it's actually the opposite of it, because it's us trying to fix a man, us trying to, you know, be mothering towards a man, and actually it will never ever work, because men will resist that. Even in fact, the weaker they are, the more attracted to you they will be. Now, what, as I say, I'm not going to go into huge detail about the book because it's incredible, you must read it. But what she says is, and what she says is that actually when you know you're recovering, is you're recovering when you know that you give healthily to a relationship instead of unhealthily, and also you don't in any way try and change somebody, and that actually, and here's the very big one, is that often the men that kind of misbehave, right, they are like they're quite attracted to us, they're attractive to us, whereas the kind, steady, considerate, I'm reading what Tiffany put here, have integrity, those men seem a bit boring to us, and therefore we might do what Tiffany's being very very kind, you know, very open, and thank you for that, darling, is she's saying that they're actually giving her feedback that she's a bit of a flight risk. In other words, they think that she might, you know, run off at any moment, and because they could be looking for too much certainty as well. Now, so you've got, again, you've got a scale. It's a bit like the scale we talked about at the beginning, but now we're talking about men. So you've got the badly behaved men who we, if we're not careful, are trying to help, or we've got the very sensible man who wants a very kind of sensible, steady relationship. And what we need is something in the middle. It's always the same, isn't it? But so what Tiffany's saying, which is fantastic, is she recognizes she's giving out kind of like a double vibe there. She's going, well, like, let me help you, but also if you don't need any help, I might be a bit out, I might, you know, I might flight, I might get out of here because it's not enough for me to do. That's what I would guess, Tiffany, actually. I would guess that they're sensing somehow that you're used to having a job to do in a relationship, to take care of someone, and that if they don't need taking care of, that you might go. So what my experience of this is exactly what Robin Norman says in the book, which is that I went from unhealthy, where literally I was doing all the caring, and, you know, there was always a drama, and it was always, you know, mommy would come along on her white horse and sort of solve everything. But then I had got into a few relationships which were just nice, and I did go through that kind of, is this really, exciting is kind of the wrong word, but is this really enough for me? I want that kind of spark, which I used to get, but it was an unhealthy spark, but I want a spark anyway. And actually, you know, might be just too steady for me. So so this might be something that you might want to do, and if you go, oh, I've heard all that before, again, you know, this is what absolutely worked for me, because I was literally so determined and so wanted to put having a great relationship first in my life that I actually wrote down on a piece of paper a vision of exactly what that would look like, and exactly how he would be, what he would show up like, and how he would be with me. So I could write in then the kind of passionate part of him, the exciting part of him, but that was not exciting in a kind of difficult way, like as it had been in my previous relationships. And I wrote that, and funny enough, and I wrote it on a bit like I've got here your questions here, written scribbly on a bit of paper. I literally wrote it out like that. It wasn't like done all like nicely in lists or anything like that. It was just blah, 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 blah. Just wrote it out. I wrote it out. Funny enough, I wrote it out when I was in a really good space. And for those of you who are on course 2 with me, this is, I think, part 6 or 7, which is like, you know, how to write that vision. But here's what it is, girls. You could do this right away tonight. You could go, okay, let me get myself in a great space, you know, maybe, you know, put a candle on, you know, relax, have a bath, whatever that is, and then let me just allow myself, without my head going, well, how could that ever happen, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually going to write exactly what it is that I want my relationship to feel like and look like. And I used to carry this bit of paper around with me, and I wrote it in pencil. because I couldn't find a pen when I did it. And by the end of a few months, it had been in my handbag and like folded up and everything. You could hardly read it because the pencil had like, you know, had like rubbed out, you know. But it was absolutely 99% of what I experienced once Tony found me. And what was interesting is when I wrote it just like off the cuff, you know, literally. I just got myself in a great space and went, right, let me just keep the pen going, And then I came back to it about 2 weeks later and I added something. In fact, I added, you know, he's American and, you know, he's very tall and all that sort of thing. And I put that in, and that didn't come true at all, of course, because, you know, Tony's from Croydon and he's definitely not mega tall. He's just normal height, you know. But what was really fascinating for me was that by absolutely being clear, and maybe this is for you girls that are on dating sites as well, is if you're really clear as to exactly what it looks like, then anything that's not like it will glaringly show up. So then you can absolutely feel, and what a great feeling that would be, is to know with every cell in your body, every fibre of your body, that you can't get into a relationship that's not fabulous and healthy, because every time you see something or hear something that's not the same as your vision, it will be obvious to you. So yes, Tiffany, it is possible that you give out 2 different signals at the same time. But I think the other question that you might want to ask yourselves is, why do I give out those signals? What is it that I am trying to get? And sometimes that's we're trying to get a man to depend on us because we feel like he'll stay. The other sign that sometimes we give out is, which is what I was telling you about this young lady who was very, very sexual. She dressed very sexually, and she was trying to kind of snare a man, keep a man, because again, you know, he needs us. That's you know, not a good, that's unhealthy as well. And also obviously if we feel like whatever we're doing, we feel like we need to find out what we're doing it for. We need to find out, am I doing this because I'm frightened of being on my own, so I want to make sure he really stays with me, or am I doing this because I want to get that excitement, even though I know it's not healthy. I want to get that excitement, because where we really want to be is in a place where we're not trying to get anything at all. We're absolutely complete and whole as we are. I remember years ago reading another book as well, which I absolutely love this. I'm just trying to think how I can explain this. And it actually comes from a book called Conversations with God, which is not a religious book, by the way. And it's in book 2, because it's a series of 3 books. It's by Neil Donald Walsh. And in the book 2, is just a chapter, and this book, for those of you who don't know it, is literally a guy going, asking God questions, like he just sat there one night when his world was imploding on him. You know, his wife had left him, he'd lost his job, he'd got no money, he was in a terrible state, and he literally just kind of put his head in his hands and went like, oh God, you know, tell me why, oh why is life so difficult? And he literally had a piece of pen and paper like I've got here, and he noticed that as he picked the pen up and put it to the paper, that he started writing as if like something else was pushing the pen along, and this is allegedly a true story. It doesn't really matter, because then he just wrote and wrote and wrote, and every time he asked another question, he got more and more answers, and then printed that in 3 books called Conversations with God. And as I say, it's not a religious book, but in book 2, there's one chapter where he goes, why are intimate relationships so difficult? And God, quote unquote, wrote, through him this, and which I thought was absolutely brilliant. He said, imagine the 2 people in an intimate relationship are 2 circles. So you've got like 2 circles like that, can you see? And imagine that when you look at these 2 circles separately, okay, if the one person, sorry, I keep going the wrong way, if this one person, this is you, say, is whole and complete as themselves, so they're as whole and complete as they can be, I mean, I always go, look, we're all a work in progress, all our lives. You know, maybe we've come here to learn some sort of lesson, but look, you know, we're all on a journey, and we do our very best to be as whole and complete, which would include not being needy, not being trying to get, you know, all those things, that we're actually living the very best life we can live as a, you know, what Tony and I would call a green, meaning, you know, in a good, healthy, happy, loving state. Right? When that person meets another person of the opposite sex who's also whole and complete and fully healthy and green, as we call it, and, you know, great in their own self and happy and healthy, all those things, when those people meet, the draw between them is so strong that they can do nothing about it. And he actually says in the book, which is quite a strong thing to say, well, I was quite surprised when I read this, he said, even if they were married to other people, that the pull between them would be so strong. Now, you know, I could have judgment about that, of course. We could all have judgment about it. It says, oh, yeah, well, what about the children and what about the thing? But I actually experienced once a couple who were a business couple, a man and a woman who were in business together. And I'll tell you this very, very quickly, just to make the point. And they asked us, Tony and I, to go and coach them on their business. And they both had literally got, you know, their houses mortgaged to pay for this business, and they both got a wife and a husband. There's one man, one woman, and they both got children. And they literally were having this challenge in their business. And we went to see them, and they're two very, very incredible people, you know, who are literally in the helping profession, like as we are, and they were so dedicated to this business, but they were having some challenges in it. One of the challenges was, interestingly, that they were both trying to make the decisions all the time, and she was more nervous about taking risks financially. He was less nervous, and therefore they would kind of not argue, but they'd be at loggerheads, and they couldn't make a decision because of that. So we went to coach them, and what was amazing from it, might be interesting for you, so I will tell you a little bit about it, from a masculine and feminine perspective, was they were behaving like equals. So they were both doing pretty well, but they were both having stress in their lives because they were trying to behave like equals. Equals is the wrong word. They were trying to behave like neutrals. Neutrals is the right word. So they weren't behaving like a man towards a woman or a woman towards a man. They were behaving like neutrals. And one of the things that happened, so we were coaching them, and what was interesting is that Tony said to me, oh, come on, let's just have a quick little break. And he said to me, come on, let's go outside, you and me. So we went outside, and he went, I don't know about you, but it feels like we're not really getting anywhere here. It's like we're trying to help them, but it's just not really working. So he said, oh, I know, I've got an idea. I know what we're going to do. So we went back in, and we literally asked them to change places with us. So they were sitting like two opposite us two, and they changed places with us. And then we said to them, ask us questions. So she asked me a question about this whole problem they got, and I just responded from a feminine perspective, which was something like, you know, I'm really I'm so upset about this. I feel so unsafe. I don't know what to do. I can't sleep about it. I'm really worried about it. You know, I don't really want to take this risk. And the difficulty I have is that, you know, I'm trying to explain all this to my husband, but that, like, you know, that we're trying to make this decision that could affect, you know, our home, because our homes could be at risk, etc., etc. And then I just said out loud, you know, actually, and I turned to Tony and I said, honestly, I want you to make the decision for what, you know, what's best for both of us. I just can't stand this pressure anymore. And I looked across her and she was absolutely crying her eyes out, and she just went to me, how did you know that I was thinking all that? And I said, because I'm a woman, and I know what women feel like. You know, this is I could sense your upset. I could sense you're feeling unsafe. I could sense that you wanted him to make a decision and that you didn't want to feel like it was half your decision and all that sort of thing. So she went, that's right. So then turned around and Tony said to the guy, well, ask me a question. And so Tony answered, but from his own perspective. You know, he just went, well, here's the way I see it. I see it, and he talked as a man would, right? Here's the calculated risks, this is the upside, this is the downside, and then he turned to me and he went, now look, I understand that the way we've been trying to run this business as an equal partnership is not working for you. You need me to be much stronger. You need me to make the decisions. You need me to take into consideration your needs and the needs of your family, but you need me to be the man here. So, and then we looked across, and the guy is like there, is like, oh my God, you know, I've got to be the man in relationship. And then Tony said more, and he went, and you don't have to worry about a thing, because I'm going to talk to your husband and we are going to get this handled. And she just looked at, so we just sat there, and all four of us were crying by this time, but she just looked at him and she just went, oh, that would be so amazing. Thank you so much. And I think the truth is that the guy was a bit like, shit, you know, I've got to like do this now. But as I watched them look at each other in their masculine and their feminine, in truth and in being willing to be themselves. Well, definitely her willing to be herself, and him then willing to step up and be the man about it. And I watched them fall in love. And it was as if they could do nothing about it. So you see, this is not about practical decisions. This is not about being, well, like, you know, what's the best way to do this? This is about saying, look, if I can learn how to be more in my feminine and whole and complete in my whole life, then a whole and complete man who's willing to step up and be a man is going to come along. And one of your questions was, you know, why am I still single? How am I, you know, what am I waiting in vain? And the answer is, no, you're not. But you have to be honest. How complete is your circle? How complete and happy are you exactly as you are, single at the moment, but actually going, I'm happy in my life. I'm not stressed. I'm not trying to get anything. I'm not desperate to be in a relationship. And I am, you know, my wheel of life, or my happy test as we call it, is nice and balanced, and I'm having a great life. Now, the other thing he says in the book is, he says, look, say this is the man, if he's got part of his life is not in a good place, right, it will attract a woman with part of her life not in a good place. And then those two people are also attracted to each other, but what attracts them is they have a similarity and a crossover of not being in a good place, and that will determine the quality of the relationship. So my point to that, and to answer that question more thoroughly, is, you know, why am I still single, is that there has to be a reason, because when we are in that great place of wholeness, as I would call it, and happiness and feminine, and being the best we can be, then there is nothing we can do about it. That attraction will happen. So where are we? We're just over an hour in, so I just want to see if there's more questions. Oh yeah, somebody's saying, right, yes, oh, somebody had to go, thank you. Yes, well, I'm recording it anyway, so I'll send it to you if you've missed any. Yes, so Tiffany's just saying, I think I played it safe by being with guys with problems. Thank you very much. That's a great. So what would be on your sign? You know, I'm here to solve your problems, and his sign would be, I've got problems, please help me. So that's great, because the fact that they had too many problems gave me an excuse to leave. Great. I never felt safe in a relationship unless I had an escape route. I've been dating steadier guys, but wondering why I'm not developing feelings for them. I've even been worrying that maybe I'm not capable of falling in love. My darling, you are always going to be capable of falling in love, even when you are 88. My mom is 88. Sadly, my dad died, of course, because he was 80 odd, you know. But it was so funny because we had somebody come to do some work for her, and they were very attracted to each other, and he was in his late 70s and she was in her, but because they were both, you know, not trying, not pushing, not striving, they just, I'm not saying they fell in love, but they, you know, they just had an attraction for each other. And so it's like, so we have to like notice that we have these crazy feelings that we go, I don't know whether I'm even capable of falling in love. I'm sure you are, honey. You just have to stop worrying and just know that the more you learn about yourself, the quicker that he will come. It's such relief to hear you describe the pattern. Funny enough, I never ever thought of looking for a middle ground between the silly guy and the manipulative guy. Thank you so much for taking so much time to explain it. Thank you. Well, thank you. And the reason why I do take my time to explain it is because this is not, nobody else teaches this stuff. People teach dating techniques. They teach, some people do teach masculine and feminine energy, but for me this is like, how does it really impact, and what do we need to do? And somebody, Mary is saying, I work in a very female environment and not much of a social life. Surely I need to meet some men for this to work. Yes, you do. But, so let me tell you a quick story about one of my clients who had that same. She went, surely I need to like meet some, you know, like join some groups, or I need to go out and everything. And I said, well, look, here's the thing, two answers to this question, Mary. Number one, the time you're putting into the, you know, and there's two things, you know, I did a video today about this. If you make this your priority, you're going to invest, like you are tonight, you're going to invest time, and you might even invest money in actually making sure that you understand yourself, why you've had the experiences you've had in the past, whether that's lots of unhealthy relationships or no relationship. You're going to find out why that is, and you're going to put your attention to getting your circle, getting you in the very best place you can be. That's the best work to do. And then to trust completely that you don't actually have to go anywhere. Because I was with this client, and we were having this exact same conversation, and she said to me, which was absolutely funny, she said, well, don't you think I should be you know, joining clubs or doing this or doing that? And I said, well, can I ask you a question? Because they do say, so brace yourselves, they do say that the most common thing is that somebody has a relationship with somebody they already know. So if you go, no, and by the way, I've heard women say this lots of times, no, I don't know anybody that I would ever want to have a relationship with. Well, you may be wrong, because this lady said to me, no, I think I need to go out, because you know, nobody's going to come knocking on my door. And then a bit later on in the conversation, I said to her, is there any man, I mean, not just, and I don't mean anybody you've been out with, just any man that you think that's single, that you think, well, you know, he's a really nice guy, that's the kind of guy, not maybe him, but the kind of guy I'd like to be in a relationship with. And she said, well, funny you should say that. She said, there's a guy next door. She said, he's moved in about a year ago, and, you know, I look at him, and I look at the way he lives his life and how he keeps his house great and all that sort of thing, and she said, yeah, I really think he's the kind of man that, yeah. So I said, I've got a question for you. Has he ever knocked on your door? And so she said, well, yes, he has, because he invited me last summer to a barbecue. She said, and I think maybe I should invite him back in at some point in time. I said, well, maybe you should. Oh, well, he's probably in a relationship. I said, well, how do you know? You don't know. But the funny thing was, of course, is she'd actually said to me earlier, I think I need to join some groups, because he's not hardly going to come knocking at my front door, is he? So, of course, when she heard herself say later that he had knocked on her front door, we couldn't help but laugh. So, yes, I think even if you work in a female environment, and even if you don't have much of a social life, I think you'd be surprised how, when you tell the story in however many months or years' time, and you tell a story about how he found you, you'll be surprised how many times I've heard stories where you haven't had to go and join a group. You haven't had to go and join a dating site. And I'm not saying people don't meet through groups and don't meet through dating sites. It's not a terrible idea, but I would do it as well. The biggest thing that you need to do is to get yourself as whole and complete and in good energy as you possibly can, and not be desperate for him to come along. Because, you know, it was interesting because I don't mind holding my hand up and saying that when in that year when I was waiting for my man to come along and find me, I did quite a lot of travel. It was a year when I was training to be a coach, and I was going traveling abroad, and every time I went to America, because remember I had American 6-footer on my vision, every time I went to America I'd be thinking about, you know, I'd try and lose a bit of weight before I went. I'd be thinking about what am I going to wear, and I wonder if he's going to be there, and I'd come back from America kind of going, okay, well, you know, maybe next time I go, or maybe next week, or, you know, whatever. And then I booked to go to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And I remember thinking to myself, which is so crazy, I remember thinking to myself, well, you know, quite a lot of the Malaysian guys are quite small, you know, I just can't, I didn't in my wildest dreams think that I would meet anybody there. So I didn't I didn't make an effort, but I mean, I didn't start thinking about what clothes I would wear and all that kind of stuff, or maybe he'd be there or anything. And of course, that's where Tony and I got together. I mean, I had met him a little bit before that, but that's where Tony and I got together. So it was quite funny, really, when I think about it, that, you know, it was when they always say, don't you, when you least expect it. And it reminds me of a quick story about one of my clients who was a financial director of a company in the city, and I was coaching her for quite some time on business. And I went to meet her the one time, and she said, could we go out, because she said, I don't feel right about talking about this in the company because the company's paying for me. I'd like to just talk to you off piste, as it were. And so we went down to a coffee place, and she said, look, I'd like to talk to you because I want to be in a relationship, and I am really, really sick and tired of being single, and I'm, you know, in my late 30s, and, you know, the clock's ticking, the usual story. And so she said, you know, I want to talk to you. She said, guys, I have a sense that you do some relationship stuff. And I said, yes, I do. So I said, actually, it was the very, very beginning when Tony and I first got together, and I'd been executive coaching in the city for quite some time before I met Tony. So she was one of my old clients, kind of thing. And I said, well, yes, funny enough, I said, since I've been with my husband, you know, in the last year or so, we've just started to do some seminars for people for relationships, you see. So she said, oh, great, I'd like to come along. So she came along to this weekend, and she was, if I'm honest, she was a bit like, oh, you know, sort of crazy personal development stuff, but she was open to learning what she could learn. So so anyway, then she went back home, and I saw her about the next time I saw her, which is probably about 6 weeks later. And again, I got to the place, and she said, oh, you know, could we go out, because I need to talk to you about something else. And so I said yes. So we sat down in this cafe, and she said, well, I've met somebody. And she said, I need to ask you questions. I need to, you know, to see what you think. So I said, well, you know, what do you need to know? And she said, well, I need to know, what does he mean? So I said, well, why? She said, well, he said to me, because she said he is at the same sports club that I am a member of. I think it's tennis club. And she said, I've known him quite a long time, but we've never connected. I've never really noticed him. And, you know, it seemed like he'd never really noticed me. She said, and then I came to your, you know, weekend, learned loads of stuff about being feminine and letting go and just getting myself in that fantastic, you know, whole place. And she said, one of the things I did was I, you know, wrote a bit of an affirmation and about my relationship. I wrote a vision of what I wanted my relationship to be like. And she said, and then I went home, and she said about 3 or 4 weeks later, she said, I was at the tennis club one night, and he came over and asked me if I'd like to go to dinner. And I said, yes, I would. I'd love to go to dinner. So she said, we went to dinner, and he said to me, what happened to you? And she said, well, what do you mean, what happened to me? And he went, well, you changed. You've changed. I mean, you kind of look the same, and you kind of got the same clothes and the thing, but you're like so different. He said, I can't explain it. He said, I was just completely drawn to you and wanted to ask you out. So she said, that went really well. That was like the first date, she said, and asked me if I would like to go on another date. So she said about a week ago we went on another date. And she said, that's what I need to ask you about, Nicki, she said, because it's very strange. So I said, okay, what happened? She said, so we were at the restaurant or bar or wherever they went, and she said he started asking me again, what happened to you? And I said, well, and she said, I could hear you, Nicki, at the back, me going, tell him the truth. Because one of the things you want to be able to do, this is, by the way, big listen up here, is that one of the things you want to be able to do is to feel absolutely relaxed, to be completely who you are and tell him the truth about you, warts and all. One of the things that, again, some of my clients do is, well, I don't really like to share things on the dating sites because it might put them off. And I said, well, look, the thing is, you want him to know everything about you so that if he comes towards you and then you like him, wouldn't you want to be with a guy who's open and honest and truthful about himself? Yes, of course you would. So the big thing is being open and honest and truthful and not being frightened of putting men off. You want to put the wrong men off anyway. You want the right man to be honest and truthful. So anyway, so she could hear me like at the back of her going, tell him the truth, tell him the truth. So she said, well, I went on this seminar. And he went, oh yeah, what was it about? She said, and I thought, oh dear, I don't really want to tell him. It feels really like, needy kind of thing. No, Nicki would be saying, tell him the truth, tell him the truth, tell him the truth. So she said, I said to him, well, it was a seminar about relationships and about learning how to get into a great relationship. So he went, oh, great. So what did you learn, and what did you do? So again, she went, oh, I don't really want to tell him, this is really embarrassing, but Nicki says that I should, so I did. So she said, well, I wrote a vision of what I wanted, and then I say something every day that describes what I want to attract. So he said, what do you say? And she went, no, I thought, no, I cannot tell him what I say. But she said, I thought, no. Nicki said, and I am 1,000,000% committed to being open and honest, not desperate, that I'm going to be honest and truthful, and that if a man wants to deliver that, then I could have the absolute dream life. So she said, so I told him that, I say each day that I am in a fantastic, easygoing, loving, caring, passionate, fun relationship where we travel together and, play sport together. And he went, wow. Oh, and that we are married and we have children. And she said, so I told him that, and then I sort of like, stopped breathing for a bit, because she said, I thought he'd be going, well, nice meeting you, and, she said, he turned around and he said, well, we'll have to see what we can do about that then. She said to me, what do you think he means? And I'm like, what? She said, what do you think he means? I went, what do you think he means? He means we'll have to see what we can do about that. So she went, what do you think he means that? I said, well, do you think he means it? Does he seem like a man of his word? Does he seem like the kind of guy you can trust? She went, completely. So I said, so now all you have to do is keep telling him that's what you'd love. And what was so amazing, this was about August of the year, and the first time that she'd said to me she was fed up, she said the words to me, if I have to have another Christmas with my sister-in-law and my brother and their children, me feeling like the odd one out and like, oh, am I ever going to have a Christmas where I'm having a fantastic with a great guy? She said, she told me that at the beginning. So this meeting that we had was in about August, and of course, the next time I saw her, she said that they'd started going out together and blah blah blah. And then I went to live abroad. This is like when Tony and I went to live in Austria, and on Christmas Day, which I thought was just ironic considering she said I never want to spend another Christmas with my sister-in-law and my brother and the kids, and like, oh, it was awful. So on Christmas Day he proposed to her, And what was absolutely brilliant is she phoned us on Christmas Day to say, you know, he's asked me to marry him, and oh my God, happily ever after. Now, what was so great as well is she asked me if I would help her choose her wedding dress, and we had some great time together. And actually, they invited us to the wedding, but we couldn't make it. I've lost touch with them. Maybe they have children now. I don't know the end of the story, but I do know that being completely honest and truthful and saying, please help me, you know, please help me. She said to me, please help me, because I know I need to get myself into an even better state so that actually where I don't have to go anywhere or do anything, he will find me. So that's a great place to finish tonight, because I think that it says it all, as they say. It kind of sums up everything that I believe about what men want. They want you to be happy. They want you to be open to being taken care of. They want you to be willing to be cherished and taken care of. They certainly don't want you to solve their problems. They certainly don't, only the unhealthy men. They certainly don't need you at all to look after them. A healthy man can look after himself, and that's why we need to date and see how he's running his whole life. And another thing is that I always say to women is, hope that on a date something goes wrong. People say, well, girls say to me, why would I hope for something goes wrong? I said, because then you'll see how he handles problems. And what you'll also notice, whether you step in and try and handle the problem yourself. So you'll see two things. You'll see how he copes with it, and you'll see how you cope with a problem. And the way that that's dealt with, whether that's the restaurant being fully booked or the car breaking down or there's nowhere to park or whatever that is, you can take that as a little snapshot, like an anecdotal kind of picture of what your relationship could be like. And if you behave in a really feminine way when a problem happens, which is that you just, you know, trust him and leave the gap, as I would say, to let him, you know, just solve it without you telling him what to do or making helpful suggestions or anything like that, then you will be able to see the measure of the man. And he will see a woman who's not trying to assist him, who's not trying to tell him what to do, who's not trying to be useful, but that's just there, sitting there, willing and able and open for love. So that's what women want. They want that kind of woman. And so we have to see how close we are to that. And the best way, as Tony always says, is to dip your toe in the water. So get in there, and that's why I'm saying I'm not anti-dating sites at all. Get in there, see what you attract. See if you can attract less men of a higher quality. See, you know, go on dates. Notice how you interact with men at work. Notice how you interact with your male family, friends, your husband, your friends' husbands, your friends' boyfriends. Notice how much you are being feminine and being in a great space, because then the closer you are to that being, I can't make it round enough, the closer you are to that being complete and whole and round, the more likely that a complete and whole round man will be drawn magnetically towards you. And yeah, that's great. So have you got any more questions? Let me make sure that I have answered all the questions. Did have one question which was slightly unusual, but I think it's worth me answering. Let me just see whether the lady's still on here. No. Okay, so the lady asked, what's untidiness got to do with not attracting men? Now, she's obviously seen one of my videos or something where I've talked about how our life and lifestyle affects our energy. So actually, if we have, like, as they say, you know, untidy life, untidy mind, and untidy life. But what's really interesting about untidiness is that it shows basically how much we respect ourselves and we respect the environment that we live in, but also how well we care for ourselves. So I always say, if we care for ourselves beautifully, and we have a lovely life, and that doesn't mean that we've got some OCD immaculate place that you could eat your dinner off the carpet kind of thing. I'm just meaning that we have a place that's beautiful, that nurtures us, and that we're giving out to the world through our own energy and the environment energy that we live in. We're giving out this signal. So I always imagine now that your man, the man who's going to find you any minute now, in the next few weeks or months or years maybe, but any minute now, could be. Imagine he's watching you all the time. Imagine he's watching you and listening to you. Imagine he can get inside your head and hear some of your thoughts. So every time you say to yourself that you're not good enough or not beautiful enough, or every time you say to yourself, oh, I can't be bothered to do that for myself because I'm on my own, or, you know, I can't be bothered to cook myself a nice meal, you know, I'll just snack, or I can't be bothered to tidy up or clean my place because, yeah, you know, I can't be bothered. Imagine he was listening to that and going, is that the sort of woman that I want to be with? A really, really healthy man goes, I want a woman who loves herself enough to take care of herself and have a great, beautiful life and a beautiful surrounding. So that's my quick answer to that question. I do think untidiness or, you know, cleanliness has actually got something to do with attracting a man, because it shows that we care for ourselves. Because if we can't care for ourselves in a way that's fabulous and beautiful, then how are we ever expecting somebody else to care for us in that way? So good. So let me ask you, have you got any more questions? Now, I promised, so if you haven't got any more questions, I'll leave the question box open to see whether there's anything else goes in there while you are, thank you, while we are just giving you time to put some more questions in the box. I just want to tell you a little bit about where you can get more information like this, because obviously, as you well know, any of you who've met me, I could talk about this subject for not just hours, but days or weeks, and have done at length. So we have something you can have right away, which is our complimentary course 1, which is a series of 4 videos, which the first one is all about the signs, the second one is all about the energy which we give off, the third one is all about masculine and feminine, and the fourth one is about the intimate, the kind of sexual signs that we give off. And those are all 8 or 10 minute videos, maybe some of them are a bit longer because it's me and Tony. So you'll hear the man's version of that as well. And then after that, there is a couple of hour training, a full-on training, just like this tonight, only with much more content. There's 3 things. It shows the what makes the perfect match, which talks all about different personality styles and who's the best match for you. There is part on what turns men off, a great big checklist about what turns men off, and there's also another part which is about, oh yes, it's how are you going to get your life into that nice circular round thing by doing a bit of a measure of where it is right now and where it needs to be and how you're going to get from there to there. Once you've had all that training, it will give you an opportunity then to go on to course 2, and course 2 is my paid for event, and that is 12-part video series, and there are, again, it's Tony and myself on an hour or so long video on a specific subject, on whether that is on our bodies or our money, or whether it's on the way we live our lives, or our places, and about letting go of old relationships. It's got every conceivable part, and it's based on what I did to get myself in a in a great space. So that also gives you, during the time, now you can take as long as you like to be on course 2, and as I say, it's got 12 parts, so you could either do that in 12 weeks or you could do it in 12 months if you like. The time when you're on there, you get 24/7 access to me through email. You can email me as often as you like, you can IM me on Facebook, or you can text me with a question, and so I give that time completely to you over that course of that time. With each video, there are a series of questions, like I've asked you a few questions tonight, but a load more questions, and an exercise to do. Each and every part has an exercise to go with it. And therefore, you're building up over a period of time even more readiness. And the parts of it where we would expect, absolutely. And if at any time during course 2 you felt like you weren't progressing quickly enough and you weren't attracting men into your life, then you would let me know, and we will, we'll assist you in whatever way we can. Because then we would hope by the time you've got to part 7 or 8 that actually you are starting to attract men, maybe you're going on some dates, and I would give you, like, you can talk to me before and after you've been on a date. You could even, like, show me, a picture of him, or you could do whatever you like. You can show me your profile if you're on dating sites, and I will give you some feedback as to how that is, how you might be able to improve that so that you attract even healthier men. So during that time, and there's also, you can come to our live events, which are in the UK. I do appreciate if you're not in the UK, you can come to our 2-day events as our guest because you're on course 2, and also you get my ebook, which is whatmakestheperfectmatch.com. That's another bonus, and I think that's it. Yeah, I can't remember anything else. Anyway. What I'll do is when I send out this recording, so you can listen to this over and over again if you want to, I'm going to send you details, but actually if you go to the email that you got with the recording, or even if you just, actually the quickest way is to drop me a line on tnv@tonyandnickivee.com. I think that's the email address that they used on the registration for the webinar tonight. If you drop me a line and just go, hey Nikki, I'm really interested in getting on course 1 or course 2. The course 1 is complimentary, the course 2 is paid for. I'm really interested in getting on either of those courses. Let me have details as quickly as you can. I will send those details out to you. Oh, and of course, a frequently asked question is, how much does it cost for course 2? And the cost is £200. As an initial payment, and that's paid at the beginning of the, to get started on the program, and that gets you started on having 24/7 access to me. And then you pay 2 more payments of £200 during the time that you are on the course. So each month for the next 2 months you pay £200. So that costs you in total £600. If you want to get that handled in one go, you can join that, and you can have access to those videos, those questions, and those exercises for life. It never goes away. Then you would pay only £500. In addition to that, as I say, there is opportunities to have one-on-one time with me, face-to-face time. If you wanted that, that would be obviously, that's my VIP program where I work with people face-to-face on a monthly basis. So if you're interested in any of that, do let me know and I will get the details to you immediately. Fantastic. So for no more questions, I am happy to carry on, and I'm just going to have a look down the list, see if I can see, because I can pretty much remember what you have written to me about. Yes. Okay, so quite a few of you have already had time with me, and I'm thinking out loud now, that one of the things that, oh yeah, on the complimentary course, it's a brand new course, by the way. If you have done something like it last year, this is absolutely brand new. These are new videos. It's new content, and actually when you get the second part of the complimentary course, I'm sending you my old ebook, which is not my new ebook, it's my old ebook. It's called Will My Knight in Shining Armor Ever Come Along? And in there is some exercises in there, like what's a must-have for me, what's a must-never for me, what's a vision of my relationship. It's got all those sorts of things and some stories about how I got ready for Tony to come and find me. And then after on the third video, it also sends you an MP3. The MP3 is called Attracting Your Knight in Shining Armor, and that's me and Tony waxing lyrical for about an hour, I think, or maybe 40 minutes, about how to get yourself completely ready. So those of you who've done some stuff with me, this is new material, and I would just urge you to get on that. And there's opportunities for you to ask me questions throughout that if you would like. So I have so enjoyed tonight, and thank you so much for all your questions, and thanks for being here and putting your time aside. And I think what would be really, really nice before we finish, and I haven't been drinking nearly enough water. And I think I'll go down and have something sparkly downstairs any minute now I've finished. Something sparkly. Is to really just say to you that yes, we've talked a lot. There's lots of thoughts of thinking, but my question is, so what are you going to do differently? What decision have you been making tonight where you say to yourself, okay, yes, I'm really, really clear now why things have not happened for me as much as I'd like, or I'm very clear as to why things have happened to me that I didn't like at all. And what is it? What's that subtle signal? What's that change that I need to make so that I complete and get really, really ready and complete? And am I, what were my thoughts? If he was listening to my thoughts right now, what would they be? Maybe I need to talk to him tonight before I go to bed and just say this is what I used to say. I used to lie in bed and I used to say to this man, who obviously I hadn't met yet, I'm really so looking forward to spending the rest of my life with you. I'm so excited and so ready and so feeling so, just thrilled to think that all those days of time when I've been in relationships or I've been alone, where I felt desperate or I felt unhappy or are all over now. Because now I can look forward to a relationship where it's easy and it's bliss and it's happy and it's full of pleasure and bliss, rather than what I used to have, which was pain. So I always used to say goodnight. I used to say goodnight, and I'm looking forward to you finding me. So I urge you to do that for you tonight. And if you would love to share with me what happened and how what changes happened in your life in the next few days or weeks, please, please do. So without any more, because obviously I could keep going and keep going and keep going, I look forward to speaking to you soon. Good night.